We're continuing on Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim, Hilchot Shabbat, Siman Shin Aleph. We're up to Seif Chaf Bet, and of Pei Amud Bet of the regular prints of your Mishna Beruras. Maran writes, Yotzim b'moch usfok shalamaka. We're in the middle of discussion of what it is mutar to have on you when you go through the Reshut HaRabim, and what is not, what is considered carrying, and what is considered merely wearing your garments on Shabbat. So says the Shulchan Aruch, how about when you have a bandage on? You have some sort of makah, some sort of cut or anything that needs a band-aid or a bandage on. Can you go out with it or not? The Shulchan Aruch says, Yotzim b'moch usfog shalamaka. You can go out with the temporary fix that you've put on your wounds to take care of the wound, lefi shehem merapim, because the sfok and the moch are considered a refuah. It's considered refuah. It's considered something that actually helps the healing process. Therefore, it's considered a tachshit, even though that's not beautiful per se, but it's considered something that could be as a fine thing to have on you. You want it to be there, you need it to be there, and that's equivalent of a tachshit. Says the Shulchan Aruch, V'chen b'klipat shum ubasal. There are different homeopathic refuahs that they had in the time of Chazal. They believed in the fact that if you have in some of the wounds having some garlic or the peel of garlic or onions would actually be helpful. Or beisfalanid or melugma or retiyash aleha. Those items also are considered, again, the splanid is a parchment, not a regular piece of cloth, but something that would be creamed up from before in order to ease the pain and lubricate the area and try to heal it properly. All of that is mutar. But if they fell from the makah, from the wound, lo yachazirem, you should not return them on Shabbat, because that will get into the issues of refuah. If you put lachatchila in the beginning, something that is meant to be healing, that's isur darabanan, which we're going to discuss soon in Siman Shin Kafchet Be'ezrat Hashem. So therefore, if they fell, you can't put them back on. And obviously, you cannot initiate putting one of those on if there's no issue of sakara, if there's no threat to life. That's not something that you do. Aval asur likroch chut o meshicha al makah laset bo. You can't tie a string on the wound that you have and to go out with it. The kevan she'enam merapeim, however, so it's not considered refuah. Therefore, it will be carrying that string that you're tying on it. Now, the Mishna Berura writes, Vaychut u'meshicham v'hu adin im yirtzeh lichroch otam al moch v'sfog. Even if you are tying them around the bandage on the wound, still would be asur. Now we have to finish this last piece of the Shulchan Aruch. אבל באגוד שכורך על הרתיעה שלא תיפול מעליו. If you have, let's say, a gauze, you don't have a band-aid that's going to be sticking by itself, or one of those like clinging wraps that nowadays we have, but it's a regular gauze. It's not going to stay there, and you want to tie it down with a string around it that it should stay put on the wound. Says the Shulchan Aruch, in that case, if you are wrapping it around, tying it around the retiyah, the gauze that you have with whatever it is underneath it to cover and heal the makkah, that you could go out with. You could even tie and untie it, which the Mishna Berura says, obviously doing it in a way that's mutar. You can't do a kesher on Shabbat. You cannot tie a double knot, for instance, but you could do, let's say, a bow, something that secures it in its place, but it is still permissible on Shabbat. Says the Shulchan Aruch, Habanim yotzim bezagim. The little kids would play with bell-like structures that they would make noise, and they would play with it, and so on. They could go out with that. Ha'arugim la'em biksutam, provided that it is already woven in their garments. It's not something that could be detached. If they're not sewed up, if they're not sewn in, then it will be a problem. The Rama adds, the fact that it's attached to the garment only with something that is usually attached, but you could take it off. Let's say you put it with a pin. You could take it off. That would be a problem. If you put there something that is not the norm to have it there, then it's got to be asur. So the Rama adds that this is mutar when it's attached to the garment. It's mutar because it is the usual thing to have. These palmonim, these bell-like things that the kids had on their garments, it's the derech to have it. People had that. That's something normal. That's why it's mutar. If you go and attach something that at all is not the norm to have on a garment, even though that you sewed it up together, still would be a problem. Still would be an issue, and that is the reason for it is because of a gezerah of Chazal. Even though this is sewed up and attached, but we are concerned that if you carry this, you got to carry it also without it being attached, because your mind says, well, this is never attached to the garment, and if I'm mutar for me to bring it like this, I should be allowed to also take it without its attachment to the garment, and that's why it would be perhaps a problem. Now the Rama adds, "Otan igulim yerokim shkazra malchut shkol Yehudi yisa echad mehem biksuto." You think that the yellow patches of the Nazi Germany was a new thing? It was not a new thing. This was an old thing that the Shulchan Aruch and Rama some 450, 500 years ago speak about, that they had like a round circle, the yellow round circles that they had, the government had decreed that the Jews should be carrying, each foreigner should have one of them on their garments. Mutar latzet bahen afilu elo tafur biksuto, even if it's not completely sewn to your garments. Rak mechubar sham k'tzad, you pinned it somehow, attached a little bit. Still mutar to go out, because you're never going to take it down. It's dangerous. It was a gezerah of the malchut, and it was dangerous not to obey. To disobey the king would be bad, and therefore they would not come to take it off. V'chen mutar latzet b'mitpachat shemenkarchim bo ha'af shkorin pasulit. They used to have a napkin sewn into the inner lining of their pocket, in the inner pocket of the jacket, with a long napkin to close to clean their nose and whatever it is that they needed to clean, so that if it's also attached, it would be fine. Now, v'had mutar ratzet bezagin ha'arugin davka she'en bahem in bel namashmiya kol. This that we said, that for kids this bell-like structure is mutar. It's only when the bell is not a full bell with the middle piece banging and making noise, because that will become an isur of hashmat kol. even though that on weekdays maybe they will have it like that, but on Shabbat, you have to make sure it doesn't have the imbel, the middle part that would actually make noise when they jump around and walk around. That you cannot have on Shabbat because of Hashmat Kol. Now, this basically concludes the Seif Chav Gimal of our Siman, but the discussion still should stay of people who walk around in the areas that don't have eruv, and sometimes they're under the weather a little bit. They need to have a napkin. They need to have something in order to be able to. If a person has a runny nose in his winter, and you have an hour walk to the shul, and there's no eruv, so how you gotta do it? His nose is gonna be running the whole time. So how do you deal with that? Chavadia has a tshuva on that, which Bezat Hashem will get to discuss. This is an older discussion, and we'll get to Bezat Hashem go through and discuss those poskim in the days to come.